special round of applause for the Emmy Award-winning Linda, who's today Bond. Linda Bond.
So Lisette and I have worked together for about 15 years, just so you guys know. Kind of a funny story, when I got here today, I was looking for my name tag, and I kept saying, well, it's under H, Hurtado. H, and spelled it out, and it took me a second to realize that I was here today as Linda Bond, and not Linda Hurtado. So we finally found my name tag. I wanted to say, first of all, how much I'm enjoying all of the speakers. If I can add this out. And I wanted to point out to you that these are my ugly, black, comfortable shoes. My smoking hot, sexy, gold, I'm gonna slay 'em shoes I left in the car. So I chose perspective over perfection. And I'm really happy because my feet don't hurt. They're so much more comfortable. I also have to tell you one of my favorite moments of the day, because wow, all the speakers have been so good. Talking about we've got the power, we just took over the men's room, ladies. I've never heard so many women giggle about an accomplishment. Okay, so I brought some notes today because I had some specific things I wanted to tell you. I also brought my glasses because, you know, Lisette, we've been working together for 15, that means we're getting old. Yeah, yes it does. We're deciding, yes, it's a fashion statement. So as she mentioned, my name is Linda Hurtado, and for 20 years I've been a television news anchor and reporter here in Tampa. Many of you who, if you live here, probably do know that. What you probably don't know about me is that I wanted to be a published author of fiction much longer than I ever wanted to be a TV news reporter. So I want to start off by asking you guys to raise your hand if you are now doing your dream job. If you could do anything and it didn't worry about your pay or what your neighbors said or anything, are you now actually doing your dream job? That's a lot. I'm also curious to know just how many of you would like to write a book and get it published, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. See, look at all the people here, right? Oh, by the way, I have an idea for a book for you and I. We got to talk about that. I got inspired here being with all of you guys. So if you didn't raise your hand, it's probably for one of these reasons, right? You don't know how to go about doing what it is you want to do, like writing a book. It probably won't pay enough, right? You don't have the time to do what it's going to take so that it will pay enough. Maybe you've got family that keeps you too busy, you're tired, or you just think it's going to be too hard. Raise your hand if any of those excuses have ever kind of kept you from pursuing the dream job, right? It's pretty universal. So my talk today is going to be about how to have a good career and a dream job if you don't stop believing. And I will tell you, it took me over a decade to get my first book published. And there were a lot of roadblocks along the way. But the desire really started when I was young. I wanted to write stories for as long as I can remember. I was kind of the geeky cheerleader in high school. I mean, I had the little cute cheerleader outfit on, but I had a notebook always tucked under my, under my arm. And I would be sometimes in the corner at high school, like way deep inside my own head, writing down dialogue or settings and anything like that. In fact, my friends from high school tell me that is really literally the image they have of me from high school, that I was the girl that always carried around the notebook. So move forward a few years and I'm at the University of Georgia and I'm deciding what it is I'm going to do with my life. And I wanted to be the great American novelist, right? But then I also wanted to be a great Broadway star. And somewhere in those first couple years at Georgia, I realized that I wasn't a good enough singer and dancer to become the great American Broadway star. And the great American novelist just wasn't making, most of them didn't make enough money. You go to college because you want a career to make some money, right? I mean, we all do. So I decided at that point, I think it was probably my sophomore year, I was going to write down what it is that I like to do, put it on a list. Well, I love theater. I love acting and drama and diving into other worlds. I love to write poems, screenplays, that novel I wrote in high school. Loved to perform. At the time, I was a majorette for the University of Georgia Redcoat Band, so I would perform in front of 65,000 people every Saturday, and I thought that was like cool. I mean, it was fun. So I loved to be the center of attention, loved a platform to make a difference, loved history, and I was minoring in political science. So all of those things on a piece of paper, I started to think, well, what is the perfect job if you love all those things, right? To be a television news reporter. And that is how I became a broadcast news major and not a creative writing major. So, I went to Georgia, got my degree, graduated, and then I made a whopping $12,000 a year my first year out of college. Remember that yet? So I don't know what I was thinking. But the key to all of that is I was never, ever unhappy because I had written down that list of everything I love to do, and my job, even though it wasn't paying me anything, like not even enough to go grocery shopping after all the bills were paid, is because I was doing what I loved. And because I was doing what I loved, I stuck with it. And over the years, as I started moving from market to market and climbing that TV ladder, eventually it became a lucrative job. So I never, even while I was doing TV, lost the notion that I had a book in me, that I wanted to become a published author. So did I walk away from what had finally become a lucrative job to become a published author? I did not, which leads me to point number one. Achieving even the most improbable dream, first of all, you have to educate yourself. Because what I realized was, even though I was an Emmy award-winning TV news reporter, I had the desire to be a fiction writer, but I did not have the skills. So I had to go learn how to do this. Stop dreaming about it and figure out how to do it. So what I decided to do was attend a writer's conference, and here's why. I wanted to know, number one, if I was going to enjoy what I was going to be learning, because I realize now it's like going back to school. You're going to have to learn something new. Am I going to enjoy it? Do I want to invest the time? Number two, can I see myself hanging out with other writers? Because at this point, I had a family of people in television news that I loved. We were all crazy adrenaline junkies. We were all working 12-hour days. I fit with this group of people. So I wanted to know if I was going to fit with other writers. I also wanted to know if I thought I really could do what other writers were doing, because I realized I could write a good story, but I knew nothing about how to plot a novel. I knew nothing about character arcs. I knew nothing about the things that authors need to know. So I went to this conference in Miami, and I paid like $150. I invested in that. And I don't remember much about that conference, but what I do remember is that a woman named Cheryl came up to me and she said, "Are you Linda Hurtado with ABC Action News?" And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "Oh, I'd love to introduce you to my friend." She brought me back and we sat down and I talked to all these women. Well, these women were all members of the Tampa Area Romance Authors, right? Kind of fake. And they invited me to come back and attend a meeting, see if I liked it. And that was the big change for me. Because I would go attend these meetings, and they taught me everything there, from the craft of writing, to the business of writing, to how to support each other. It was crucial. So these are the key things I think you need to do if you want to switch jobs or pursue a dream job, and it doesn't even have to be writing a book. Number one, you have to meet other people who are doing what you want to do. You gotta get out of your shell, get out of your box, and go meet people. Number two, you got to join a club where they are actively trading information on how to do it successfully. Working Women is a great network right here. There's going to be women at Working Women that are doing whatever it is all of you dream out there. So if you attend any of the meetings through Working Women, you're going to meet someone else who may already have a line on what it is you want to do. Take online classes, read books, find a partner that maybe is at your level or a little bit higher. The partner I found, I just smile every time I talk about her. She was a teacher at a very preppy school here in Tampa. And now she's writing the hottest erotica you would ever imagine. It's like the nun wrote 50 Shades of Grey. Crazy. But we were partners back in the time when we were writing romantic suspense. We were doing more James Bond type of thrillers. So we were writing our first book together, and I would give her a chapter, and she would give me her chapter, and we would trade back and forth, and that is how we got better. We were helping each other. I joined a national organization called the Romance Writers of America. It was the national branch of TARA, and it only cost me $100 a year. But it was priceless, because they have chapters all over the United States of America. So there's a chapter in Seattle, in Dallas, in Peoria, in Maine. And they would have these contests that you could enter, and I would send 50 pages of my manuscript to people in Seattle that didn't even know me. You know, it's kind of hard in Tampa because these people are my friends. You know, they're going to tell me, "Oh, your book is good," right? But you send it to someone in Dallas or Maine, they don't know you, and they're going to tell you the truth. And what you really need at this point is the truth. Now, they're going to be diplomatic. We're all friends, right? We're going to lift each other up, but they're also going to tell you the truth because they know you're sending it, and you're spending, what, $25 to enter this contest? Because you want to get better. So that is what I did. I studied the craft, and I studied it for years, which leads me to point number 2. You have to make the time to learn what it is you want to learn. Raise your hand if you have free time during the day, an hour to do whatever you want. There's 2 people maybe who are raising their hands, right? So we're all busy. That goes without saying. And at the time I started writing, I was working for ABC Action News. I had 5 kids at home at one point, a husband who still wanted to spend time with me, and I was doing charity work, so it really was kind of impossible. That's probably the number 1 question I get from people. How did you work as a television news reporter and write a book? Well, there were days I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and write before I went to work, and there were days I would be staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning writing after work. I'd go to the soccer game, and while my daughter was warming up, there's an hour warm-up, I would be the soccer mom with the laptop writing before the game started, and people would always come up to me and go, Linda, you're always working. And I'm like, yeah, but if you love what you do, right? It's not really work, it's what you want to do. And then I'd close the laptop and watch the game and hang out with the parents and have a good time. But you have to make the time. Which leads me to point number 3. If you're struggling to find the time and you're not getting any closer to your goal, maybe you should just quit. So that's probably not what you expected to hear from me, right? But I have a point to make with that, because I did walk away from a book in progress. I just quit because my kids were really complaining about, my love for my laptop. They think it was all-consuming. So if you walk away, which I did, I kept finding myself going back and thinking, it's unfinished, so I'm just going to write one more chapter, or I'm just going to query one more agent, or I get a tip about something, I'm just going to, talk to one more editor. And what I realized was, this was almost an obsession with me. Like, I wanted to complete the task. I wanted to finish the book. I wanted, if nothing else, to prove I could do it, right? So if you quit and you come back to it, then you know it's something you must do, right? Which leads me to point number 4, achieving a dream job is usually a marathon, not a sprint. So in the words of one of my all-time favorite characters, Dory, just keep swimming, right? Just keep moving, just keep moving. So what did I do to just keep moving forward? Well, number 1, I finished my first book. You gotta finish the book, right? And I tell writers that, just give yourself the ability to write crap as long as you're writing. Just write it down, because you can always go back and edit it, but you have to finish the book. I had friends who edited that book for me for free. Well, what that meant was I had to edit their book for free. So that takes more time, right? But you just trade, you do the old-fashioned business. I researched agents and editors in New York, and I found the ones that were representing romantic thrillers, which is what I write. I attended regional conferences where I could meet them face-to-face, because I think I pitch better in person. And I got bites, and I got bites for my first book, Alive at 5. I got so many bites, I felt like I was an 8-year-old sitting on Lake Yellowstone back in the days when they used to stock trout. Like, you get the bites, but I could never hook anybody. And I'm thinking, I am an Emmy Award-winning journalist. I know I can write. Why isn't anybody taking this leap of faith with me? It was so frustrating, which leads me to point number 5. Don't stop believing. Again, it took me a decade. So I decided I'm going to go back to RWA one year, even though it hadn't landed me the agent or the editor, because I was not going to stop believing. So at the National Romance Writers of America conference, what they do is they allow you to go into a conference room and pitch your book to one agent and one editor, and you only get one. So I went in and I pitched to my agent. But I had no idea the task I was taking on, because she made me cut like 20,000 words out of that book. And that was, a feat. And you know what they say, killing your baby is so hard. I mean, it was really difficult. Plus, I'm working full time. And so I literally would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturday and edit all day. And the only time I take a break is to go see my daughter play soccer, because she played soccer on Saturdays, and, maybe to pee. And that's about it. Like, it really took all day. And thank goodness I had the focus to do it, because that's the only time I had to do it. Dove right in, and Alive at 5 was finally published in July of 2014. Woohoo, here I am, a published author. Which leads me to point number 6, have realistic expectations. My first book did not hit the New York Times bestselling list, neither did my second, Cuba Undercover. But But I did get asked to speak at the St. Pete Times, or the Tampa Bay Times, rather, Festival of Reading, October 24th, and I think that's a step in the right direction, right? It's not making me rich yet. It's a lot more work than I ever thought it would be, and I am even happier doing it than I ever imagined I would be. And I know that some of you are probably wondering if I quit my job at ABC Action News to write full-time. I did not. I haven't landed the Nicholas Sparks movie deal yet, so, although I haven't stopped believing. I think, you know, Cube Undercover should be on the big screen, and my next book, Live Shot, should be on Lifetime. So you heard it here first. Maybe it'll happen. But what I do have today is I have an editor with Entangled who can't wait to read my next book. I mean, she emailed me yesterday, and she's like, how far along are you? What page are you on? When is it coming in? I never thought that would happen. I have an agent who just emailed me, because I met her at RWA this past summer, who can't wait to read my women's fiction novel, Glory, Glory, The Majorettes Are 40. And she's asking me, when is it done? When are you going to send it to me? I never thought that would happen. And I'm writing a book with my 11-year-old for a middle school crowd called The Last Scavenger Hunt. And my daughter is like my new editor, and I never thought that would happen. So my goal is to have 3 books done by the end of the year. I was fortunate enough to be given an opportunity to take 6 months off. This doesn't happen. It's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, knowing that, you know, I'll have a job to go back to. So I've had a chance to spend a summer with my kids, which was priceless. I actually took a 3-week vacation with them, which was great. And to focus on my dream job, and I'm making the most of it. I'm taking the time to try to write these books because it has been my dream. And I know that rarely happens. I will eventually be going back to work as a TV news anchor. And as any good TV news anchor, I've managed to perfect the art of the great tease. And as any suspense writer knows, you always leave your chapter on a cliffhanger. And as any good businesswoman knows, you always leave your audience wanting more. So I will just say there is much more ahead for Linda Hurtado and for Linda Bond, so stay tuned. You can come up. I'll be out, I do have my books here. I'll be out signing them, I think at lunch, right? But also, and more importantly, because I believe in the whole idea of women supporting women, if you have any questions you want to ask me about, you know, if you have that idea and you want to write the book, and maybe it's nonfiction, it's not romance. What'd you say it was? Hot, sexy romance? I don't know. You read it. So please come ask me, because I'm all about empowering other women, and I will be glad to answer any questions you might have about how to put your ideas down on paper or into a laptop, and how to get your book published, because that's what I want for all of you, if that's what you want.